Welcome to Neighbourhood Unitarian Universalist Congregation, and Happy Pride. My name is Suzanne, I'm the music director here, and I have your announcements. Happening at Neighbourhood, today the C Committee, Social and Environmental Action Committee, is meeting after service. Please join us across the street on this beautiful day on the roof of the Carrot Common. You can see Nancy or Laura, I think Laura's up above me here on the balcony for more info. Also, the C is co-hosting a Kairos blanket exercise on Wednesday, September 21st. Mark your calendar and you can talk to Laura for more info about that as well. Small groups are an excellent way to deepen our spiritual exploration and care for one another. Are there small groups on themes or topics that you could lead or join for the fall? Please talk to Allison, our president, who is also up on the balcony today. Consider joining the Lifespan Learning Committee. Help us create a family-friendly space for the young that attend here on Sundays and help nurture their spiritual growth. You can talk to Z or Nisha for more information. Z is up in the balcony there today, and I've lost power. All right. Well, they can't hear me on the Zoom. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, here we are again. Moment of tech. This week's question to the community. Briefly tell us about a time when your worldview changed after meeting someone who you had held a bias about. Ponder this. We hope you will be willing to share your reflections on this when the time comes in the service and in our breakout rooms following. Next Sunday's service will be online only. We begin our traveling Southern Ontario Summer Roadshow. Next week, the theme is Woven in a Single Garment of Destiny. This service was designed by Reverend Erica Hewitt, who is the Minister of Worship Arts for the UUA. We'll hear from a range of UU leaders, and the service will also feature 2 original songs. This service is hosted by Rev Jess from Grand River Unitarian Congregation. And also please note the link for the services in the summer is not our regular neighborhood link. tinyurl.com/summer UU Sundays. That'll also be in the Monday mailing so you're able to join.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you for joining us both here. You know what? I think I'll take my mask off at this point. That's better. Thank you for joining us both here in the sanctuary and at home on Zoom. My name is Debb Bertazzon, and I'll be your service weaver this morning from our beautiful sanctuary at 310 Danforth. And yes, indeed, happy Pride to all. This service is being recorded for the public, both on YouTube and on our website. Not to worry, though, joys and concerns will be edited out. For those of you who are home on Zoom, if you have any privacy concerns, you can turn your cameras off so that you're not seen, and you might even want to rename yourself. Similarly, if you're in the sanctuary here and you have privacy concerns, you can sit near the back in the center, and that way you won't be seen. You know, we say that, but we hope that you won't. Part of being in a spiritual community is being seen. We invite you to take the risk of not being anonymous and to participate with others in building an authentic spiritual community. And we are all sovereign beings with choice So please make yourself comfortable wherever you are. Let's all do that together. Now we have nowhere else to go, nothing else to do. So now let us bring our hearts, minds, and spirits together as one as we share in energy and in love. Yes, love. And let's give gratitude for being here together. This is our threshold moment. Let's enter into sacred space together. Our service begins now. And now, especially, but not only to honor Pride, I'd like to invite my beloved Dina Wake to come up and light the chalice as we sing together. For our prelude today, our spirit choir, who you'll see, they're all dressed beautifully in rainbow colors for Pride. They'll be singing a song entitled, Love is Love is Love is Love. Suzanne, would you like to share the story behind what we're about to hear?
Sure I would. Thank you, Deb. There's a slide, if we could pull up the slide, Gordon. Love is Love is Love is Love is written by Abby Bettinas. The music, it's a 4-part round. She dedicates this song to the victims and survivors of hate crimes everywhere, and specifically those at the Pulse nightclub in Orlando on June 12, 2016. Love is often the bravest thing we do. May love prevail. I have the spirit choir joining from above, but I'm hoping the congregation is also going to sing with us. Sorry, that picture is of all of the victims of the Pulse nightclub shooting that happened 6 years ago. So I'm wondering, congregation, if you can learn this mantra with me, and we're going to sing it together underneath what the choir is doing throughout the song. So I'll sing it for you once. Sounds like this. Love, love, love. All we need is love, love, love. All we need is... And we just loop that over and over. Let's try that. We'll try it twice together. Choir, we're going to take it from the top. Here we go. Love, love, love. All we need is 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 love, is love.
Wow. Thank you, Spirit Choir. That was lovely. Especially in surround sound. That was pretty cool. Welcome to our Neighbourhood Unitarian Universalist Congregation's yearly Pride service. Today, we will be celebrating 2S LGBTQ QIA plus people and communities. Now, for those of you who are wondering about this acronym, it stands for Two-Spirit, Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Transgender, Queer, Questioning, Intersex, Ally, and more. The term Two-Spirit originated in Winnipeg in 1990 during the 3rd annual Intertribal Native American First Nations Gay and Lesbian Conference. It comes from the Ojibwe words, Nij Manitoag. In many Indigenous cultures, before the arrival of Europeans to North America, Two-Spirit referred to the ancient teachings that Indigenous elders tell. Oh, hugging time. Of people who are gifted beings because they carry two spirits, that of the male and the female. It's told that women engaged in tribal warfare and married other women, just as there were men who married other men. These individuals were looked upon as the third gender, and in many cases, and in almost all cultures, they were honored and revered. Two-Spirit people were often the visionaries, the healers, and medicine people. They were respected as fundamental components of Indigenous cultures and societies. These days, Two-Spirit people are Native people who are gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, other gendered, or third or fourth gendered individuals that walk carefully between the worlds and between genders. Sadly, due to the many colonizing forces that Native people have suffered, including the aggressive and violent assimilation that occurred in the residential schools, the roles and culture of Two-Spirit people were destroyed through racism, misogyny, and homophobia. So here we are. Today and always, let us not forget our congregational building and many of the homes that folks are zooming in from are on the traditional land and territories of the Wendat, the Anishinaabe, the Mississauga, and the Haudenosaunee nations. I offer my gratitude to all of our First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people for their teachings about earth, relations, and communities. And now allow me to recognize some more wonderful people. Our Minister Emeritus is the Reverend Wayne Walder, and he's on sabbatical before his retirement. Our musical director is Suzanne Mazars, and Zoriah Getchell facilitates our Sunday Child and Caregiver program, and I think she's doing double duty today as she's singing in the choir. We have Gordon Thorne working his magic behind the curtain, doing Zoom web hosting duties, and similarly, we have Reece Roger attending to our AV needs here in the sanctuary. And just a reminder, if anyone needs a hearing device, an assisted hearing device, Reece can help you with that. So a big thank you to them all. Finally, we also have a wonderful guest speaker today, Reverend Danielle Webber, a friend of our congregation, whose message today is entitled Inclusivity and Welcoming Congregations. Now, I think most of us have the hang of Zoom etiquette by now. However, if you're anything like me, sometimes our memories fail us. So if you have any tech questions, please feel free to send a direct text or chat message to Gordon. We have a wiggle room off to the side of the sanctuary where families with small children are welcome to use it if they feel that they need some private time and still want to be in proximity with the rest of us. And you can hear the service from that room. Of course, this is not a requirement. All are welcome here, including those with the wiggles. Here at Neighbourhood, we're open to many beliefs and learn from many traditions. We welcome all people to our religious community. If you're visiting us here for the first time, or even if you're relatively new, we welcome you and encourage you to stay after service. Suzanne, I believe, will be in the sanctuary to answer questions about who we are and what we do. And this is also available to newer folks that are on Zoom. Now, our services can vary from week to week, so we encourage you to check us out a number of times so that you get a feel for who we are. Now, some things, of course, remain the same. Our mission at Neighbourhood is to empower spiritual growth and shared action for care of the world. So today we'll be exploring the topic of widening the circle and diverse families and relationships. As I was preparing for today's service, I thought about my own life story. I currently identify as a lesbian, queer, white, middle-class, able-bodied, cisgender woman settler. My pronouns are currently she, her. I share my home with my beloved Dina and our non-human animal, canine animal, that is, brother, Rafi. Over the last year or so, I've been spending a lot of time with several folks who have been teaching me that there are so many different ways of loving and of being in relationship, of being in family, and of being in community. As a result, I've become more curious about my ever-evolving place in this world and how I fit in as a loving, sexual, intimate, and caring being. I've been challenging myself to think outside the box. You know that box, the one that dictates society norms of what's acceptable ways of living it authentically in the world. I started wondering if we say, hang on, enough. Where did that come from and why? Growing up, we certainly didn't ask those questions or talk about these things. Now, as a therapist working with young people and adults, I've come to realize that in many circles, many folks still don't. Some are wanting to explore various kinds of relationships, sexual, intimate, monogamous, non-monogamous, poly, open, queer, het. I could go on. There are so many different ways. However, they're being fed damaging messages rather than accurate and fulsome information, which would enable them to make clear, healthy, knowledgeable choices. If we're to become more expansive in our thinking about who and how we love, we must discuss it, dismantle the myths, and replace the taboos and repression with comfort in dialogue and exploration about what is right for each of us. I've recently started teaching some of my clients about what we call RBDSM, a conversation that is useful to have before engaging intimately and or sexually with another and before entering into a relationship. Now, time doesn't permit me to get into all of the details, but here's what the acronym stands for. R, relationship status. So it might be something like, I'm single and I believe in monogamy. Or I'm in an open relationship with another man. Or I'm in a committed relationship where we have agreed that playing with others are okay as long as. B, boundaries. No, this is okay. D, desire, what I like and what I don't like. S, sexual health. I was tested last for. I've been tested many years, or I haven't been tested for many years because I was in a monogamous relationship and I knew that my partner tested negative, that kind of thing. And M is really super important. It stands for meaning. So it might be something like, sleeping with you tonight, well, this doesn't mean I want to marry you or meet your mom. Later, M may stand for meaning, it will still stand for meaning, but it might be, hey, how are we defining our relationship status? So if we don't talk about various ways of being in relationship, what messages are we giving to folks who choose a less conventional lifestyle? Think about it. Do we really welcome everyone into our faith community? Would we judge someone who is in a different kind of relationship to our own? Food for thought. Open minds, open hearts. In the words of Samuel Kirshner, acceptance is the activity of love. And Deepak Chopra says, nothing brings down walls as surely as acceptance. Okay, Now it's time to greet our neighbors with open, accepting, and welcoming hearts. Please adopt an attitude of consent and respect for physical distance. After you've greeted those of you who are here, after you've greeted folks in the sanctuary, you may as well turn to the camera back there and say hello to those who are joining us virtually. For those of you who are on Zoom, briefly unmute your device, switch to gallery view, and offer a greeting to those around you, and then to the people in the sanctuary. A chime will sound when it's time to end. Now let's take a moment to greet our neighbors.
Hello, neighbors. Hi, Danielle. Hey, Gordon and Michelle.
Hi, Bill and Brenda.
Hi, Lena.
Hi, Boris.
Hi, Juliana.
Hi, Danielle.
Hi,
Bill.
There's Lawrence and Judy. Hello. Bill, good to see you.
Good seeing you. Good seeing you.
Brenda's there too.
Hey.
Somewhere.
Always so hard to end that lovin', isn't it? Now, I invite you to join me in reading our opening words, which will appear on your screen. Let us cast the circle of a sacred space here. Let us cast the circle of a cherished space here. A space of safety, a place of forgiveness, a place of love. If we want the world to change, we must craft in our space and in ourselves the seed that grow a different kind of life. A life of graciousness, of creative intelligence, a place of life and spirit for ourselves and our families. So, as we mentioned earlier, the question to the community this week is, briefly tell us about a time when your worldview changed after meeting someone who you had held a bias about. So I think just to make it easier, we're just going to take a couple of responses from folks in the sanctuary. Anyone who would like to share, please raise your hand. And Luann.
I was recently at my son's, and his best friend is a Trump lover and a gun lover, and I've never cared for the man, and we sat down for a meal together for my son's birthday, and we started talking about not guns, not politics, and he was actually not bad. And he said to me, "You're okay for a lefty."
Thank you. Peter.
I remember the first time I actually met someone I knew was gay. I was, I guess, about 18, and I'd known Tris for about a year or two. He was my drug dealer, and he was wearing a gay pride button, and I said, "Why are you wearing that?" And he said, "I'm gay. Didn't you know?" And I said, No, I didn't. And I thought, he's always been a really nice guy. He's always been friendly. He's never tried to cheat me, which is more than I could say for some of my other dealers. And so I came to reevaluate some of my preconceptions and biases.
There could be two possible things about those biases there. Yeah. Anyone else? Yes.
In a similar vein, I worked in my early 20s at the Girl Guides of Canada, and I had 4 really great friends, and one of them was a lady that ran our, printing stuff, and she turned out to be a huge gay activist. We ended up going and boycotting Anita Bryant We also boycotted a men's gay bar because they wouldn't let lesbians in with jeans. And I danced in a gay club too. And I mean, I had never even thought about people being gay until I met this woman. And so it's pretty cool.
Thank you. Okay. I remember. Okay, last one. Kyra?
So mine's actually a bit broader, and it happened when I first came to Neighbourhood. I had grown to hold a lot of biases where I couldn't feel safe anywhere, and then I came here and I met a bunch of people who challenged those biases and started to teach me that it was possible to actually have grown-up interactions and actually to move through the world and be able to be yourself despite all of the crap. So
Thank you. All right, now we're over to the Spirit Choir for our opening song. Suzanne?
Thanks, Deb. If we could pull up the slide for this song. Pride is a protest as well as a celebration, like our prelude this morning. First song we're going to be singing is in honor of Gwen Araujo, who was murdered by her lovers for her identity. And as I was researching her story, I learned about this thing called the gay trans panic defense. And I didn't know if the congregation knew about this, so I wanted to share a little bit about what I learned about this. This is a legal strategy in which a defendant pleading guilty to an act of violent crime can claim temporary insanity because of unwanted same-sex sexual advances, typically from men. This was used in her murder trial, which led to lesser sentencings for the defendants. And so far, 17 states has banned its use, which is a minority, and this gay trans panic defense is permissible as a defense still in Canada. So the work is not done, everyone. The democracy is slippery, and human rights are slippery, is what we can see happening with women's rights in the US, trans rights, and still here in Canada. So we're gonna sing a song, a tribute song, for all the people harmed by hate violence, called Courage to Be Who We Are. I'm gonna teach you the melody so you can sing it with the choir. So I'll sing a phrase and you repeat after me. We are here in the memory of those who have fallen. Let's do that. We are here in the memory of those who have fallen, those who have fallen, those who have fallen, those who have fallen, those who have fallen. We are here in the memory of those who have fallen. We are here in the memory of those who have fallen, here for the courage to be who we are, here for the courage to be who we are, courage to be who we are, courage to be who we are. Could we rise in spirit and sing this song in memory? We are here in the memory of those who have fallen, those who have fallen, those who have fallen. We are here in the memory of those who
This is a unique time in our hybrid service. Oh, gee whiz, sorry.
No worries, Deb. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to invite all the young and young at heart down to the carpet because it's time for our Time for All Ages. And I want to start our Time for All Ages today by thanking our guest speaker, Reverend Danielle Webber, who is joining us from Zoom, and will be talking to us in a little bit about inclusivity, and I think about our new 8th principle as well. So thank you, Danielle, for joining us. So happy Pride, everybody. Now, we've talked about Pride before. We've talked about what it is and what it means. We've talked about love is love, and we've even talked about what the colors of the Pride flag mean. Today, I'd like to tell you a little bit about what Pride means for me. So to me, Pride is an open invitation to everyone to come as you are. I think this really hit true and hit home for me about a month ago. There was an event in a Sephora at the Eaton Center that we went to as a family. You might remember this, Cameron. We went to meet one of the Fab Five from Queer Eye. They were launching a new line of hair care products, and the event's theme was Come As You Are. And we did. We had a friend staying over for that weekend, and we all went to the event together. It was the first big public event that I went to in a dress. And I was nervous, but it turns out I didn't have to be. Because there was a long line of people when we got there, and by the time the line actually started moving, it was even longer. And the line was filled with people who had answered the call of Come As You Are. There were women and men, there were trans women, and there were trans men. There were non-binary people and gender-fluid people. There were people of all colors from many different countries. And everybody got along. There were no fights, no arguments. I heard no insults hurled or curses thrown. Everyone seemed happy, happy to just be together as they were. And seeing so many people gathered together in joy made me feel really prideful. Yeah, prideful. It's the same way I felt on Friday at the Trans Pride March. And I was amazed and proud at the sight of so many people marching together as one, saying it doesn't matter who you are, come as you are and be welcome. It's one of the things I love about this community. When my family joined, we sang a song at our joining ritual that really put the come as you are right at the front of my head. It's a very short verse, and I'm going to sing it through twice. Please feel free to join me. Whoever you are, we welcome you. Whoever you come from, we welcome you. Whoever you love, we welcome you. Whoever you are, we welcome you. Wherever you come from, we welcome you. Whoever you love, we welcome you. It is a nice song. That song is pride to me. That idea of come as you are is pride to me. And you know, they say pride doesn't end with Pride Month. That's why I encourage all of you to go as you are, to come as you are, every day of the year. Because when people come as they are, they can be met where they are, and that's when we can actually build some kind of understanding. Thank you for listening. It's our Time for All Ages for today.
Thank you, Zoriah. But that was still a unique time in our service. Yeah. And this is another unique time in our service when we invite you to share a joy or a concern in your life. And now it's time for meditation. So I invite you to settle in, finding a comfortable position on your chair, feet on the ground, legs uncrossed, in an upright yet comfortable position. Now allow your eyes to gently soften, either looking at the ground in front of you or closing your eyes if that's comfortable. Feel the chair supporting your body. Become aware of your spine, how each vertebra is stacked upon the other, all the way from your sacrum to your skull. Now begin to draw your attention to your breath. Find that place where you experience your breath. It might be your belly or your chest or your throat or your nose. Find that place where you experience your breathing. And I invite you to become curious about the sensations of your breath. Paying attention to the rise and the fall of your belly or chest as it becomes synchronized with your breathing, feeling the expansion of your chest or belly on the inhale and contraction on the exhale. And when your mind wanders, as it will, notice the wandering without judgment and name it with one word: thinking, planning, worrying, whatever it is. And then bring your attention back to your breath. The expansion on the inhale and the contraction on the exhale. Now I invite you to give yourself a loving hug. I'm going to read 9 affirmations and invite you to repeat each message to yourself while continuing to give yourself that long embrace. I am a good person who deserves happiness, health, peace, and love. I am worthy of good things. I am proud of myself. I am precious. I respect myself and treat myself with kindness and love. I accept myself and bring peace to my mind and to my heart. I am safe when I have an open heart and mind. I believe in myself here and now. I am perfect just the way I am. Let's now share a deep sounding breath. And when you're ready, come back to the room that you're in. Take your time. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Rev Danielle, who has shared their wisdom with us in November when speaking about how their congregation widened their circle by providing sanctuary from the cold. She is joining us once again on Zoom. Rev Danielle is a third-generation Unitarian Universalist, serving the natural UU community as the CUC's Youth and Young Adult Ministry Specialist. They live in West Bank, BC, with their spouse, Adam, and 97-pound lapdog, Bryn. Essential to Rev Daniel's work is bringing to light the expansiveness of Unitarian Universalism. Through leaning into interdependence and recognizing that faith formation can happen everywhere, UUs can become radically inclusive in creating space within our communities and those within our communities for those already here and those who are joining. Welcome, Rev Danielle.
Thank you, everybody. It is so good to be with you this morning. And one thing that I realized I forgot to put into my introduction is to say that I live on Silex land in Kelowna or West Bank, British Columbia. And it is beautiful here this morning. So I hope that you all are having lovely weather as well for this weekend. I wanted to start my reflection this morning with words from Reverend Dr. Patrick Cheng. And these words are from his book, Rainbow Theology, Bridging Race, Sexuality, and Spirit. So these words from Reverend Dr. Patrick Cheng. When I was growing up in San Francisco Bay Area in the 1970s and 80s, I looked forward each year to the annual network television broadcast of The Wizard of Oz. My favorite part of the movie was when it transformed from black and white to dazzling Technicolor. The first part of the movie, when Dorothy and Toto are transported over the rainbow, and they stepped out of their monochromatic house and into the multicolored hues of Munchkin Land. Dorothy is greeted by Glenda, the Good Witch of the South, and Glenda urges the Munchkins to come out, wherever you are. Somehow I imagined that my own coming out process as a gay man would be just like Dorothy and Toto's transition from black and white into Technicolor. After all, gay men loved The Wizard of Oz and even called themselves friends of Dorothy. That is, I would be transported from the closet, a monochromatic black and white space, into a fabulous rainbow-colored space that was the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, intersex, and queer community. Unfortunately, my own coming out process as a gay man was far less fabulous than I had imagined. This was, in large part, due to the fact that I'm also an Asian American man. I quickly found that a person of color within the LGBTIQ community posed its own set of challenges. When I came out of the closet in the mid-80s in college, I thought I was a unicorn. That is, I thought that I was a one-of-a-kind mythical creature, because everyone I knew in the gay community was white, and everyone I knew in the Asian American community was straight. Not only did I not know that other LGBTIQ people of color, but I was actively excluded from parts of gay culture. When I was at a gay bar in Washington, D.C. with my white gay friends from college, I was asked to show several forms of identification, whereas my friends were not. And once I was allowed inside the bar, I felt completely invisible. No one talked to me or even said hello. So much for being somewhere over the rainbow. I was stuck in a monochromatic world. Those words from Reverend Dr. Patrick Cheng. This practice of requiring gay men of color to provide multiple pieces of identification was known as double or sometimes triple carding, and it was used to dissuade people of color from entering gay bars because the bar owners were concerned about losing popularity and being concerned to be perceived as having been taken over by gay men of color. This was happening in the 80s and 90s all over the United States, but specifically in San Francisco, more than 2 decades after the Stonewall riots. The monochromatic world that Reverend Cheng spoke about has had a way of reverberating through our world, whether it was in the pre-Stonewall era or afterwards within San Francisco, not to mention the judgments and exclusions that happened throughout North America during the AIDS epidemic. Queer folk have constantly fought to widen the circle of concern, community care, and of inclusion. This past fall, Canadian Unitarian and Unitarian Universalist congregations participated in inclusivity forums, roundtable conversations, and congregational dialogue around the proposed eighth principle. A year ago, in May 2021, at the Canadian Unitarian Council's annual general meeting, a delegate requested the immediate adoption of the proposed eighth principle. After much back and forth at the meeting, an unanticipated vote and approval of the proposal happened. And then, a week later, an announcement was made that the vote was invalid. It was a whirlwind of emotions over the weeks after the adoption and then the announcement of it being invalid. The staff at the CUC had spent the summer months preparing inclusivity forums, roundtable conversations, and a process through which congregations could use to adopt the principle on an individual basis. And then in November, a second vote happened, and the eighth principle was adopted at a national level. We affirm and promote individual and communal action that accountably dismantles racism and systemic barriers to full inclusion in ourselves and our institutions. Much of the preliminary workshops and conversations around the adoption had to do with individual pieces of the principle. What do we mean by accountability? Who is defining racism? What are systemic barriers? Much of the conversation that happened throughout those 6 months between May and November, and then after the adoption of the November 27th focus on the, and then after the adoption on the 27th of November, shifted the focus of logistics of the principle, focuses on wordsmithing and whether or not the statement was a principle, in the same way that the other 7 principles were. As a member of staff at the Canadian Unitarian Council, I had a sense of relief when the principle was finally adopted, because I would be able to stop focusing on the details surrounding the vote and start focusing on the hows of the process. How do we remove systemic barriers? How do we identify them? How do we widen our circle of inclusion? I wouldn't compare this transition to that of the one described from The Wizard of Oz. It wasn't that we were moving from a space of monochromatic, dull exclusion into a world of technicolor inclusivity, but I was looking forward to the shift in focus, away from adoption and towards action. UU congregations have put a lot of effort and work towards widening their circles of inclusion, especially when it comes to supporting LGBTQ+ communities. And yet I would argue that there is still so much that needs to be done, so much work on inclusion that can be done in terms of the queer community. Homophobia, a prejudice against gay individuals, has been one of the biggest hurdles that was overcome with the development of the Welcoming Congregations program, which was first conceived in 1989 at the UUA's General Assembly. Quote, although the UUA had been on record since 1970 as supporting the rights and worth of lesbian, gay, and bisexual persons, the lived experience of these people in UU congregations spoke a different and painful truth. This from the opening of the original handbook, Welcoming Congregations, which was published in 1990, which then had updates made in 95, 99, and 2002, with the final update including workshops entitled Racism and Homophobia/Heterosexism, the Radical Right, Bisexuality and Biphobia, and Transgender Identity, What It Means. I wonder if one of the largest insights achieved from the Welcoming Congregation Handbook and its program was the realization that heteronormativity, or the assumption that everyone is straight, was losing its power within our communities. the celebration of same-sex unions, the recognition of Pride Month, and the witnessing of relationships outside of the monochromatic norms that previously eclipsed our world became part of our Unitarian Universalist identity. The Welcoming Congregation Handbook was discontinued in 2014 after having had no updates for 12 years. However, there are so many resources for Unitarian Universalist congregations to continue the work of becoming welcoming congregations. But perhaps congregations believe that they've already achieved that layer of inclusion. As was made clear in the reading from Dr. Reverend Patrick Cheng, there are many different layers present when talking about finding inclusion and welcome in any community. And perhaps we, as UU communities, have done work around heteronormativity. But have we created a welcome? Have we created and have we overcome the same hurdles when we consider cis normativity, or the assumption that cisgender is the norm? What about when a person's gender expression doesn't jive with their gender identity? Or when a person's pronouns don't seem to fit with their expression? Have we created spaces where individuals feel welcomed to bring the entirety of their humanity, where the entirety of their humanity will be celebrated? This past December, I volunteered my partner Adam and I to participate in one of the Inclusivity forums that were created and facilitated by Aaron Horvath and Amber Belmar from the CUC. The topic of the forum was diverse relationships and families. My partner, Adam, is a trans man, and he began his transition in 2008, almost a decade before he and I met. I was hoping that during this interview and during the Inclusivity forums, we would be able to share the experience of what it meant to be a straight passing couple, what it means to be witnessed as heterosexual, and how harmful it can be when assumptions are made about this. In particular, I wanted people to know how hurtful it is to assume that Adam and I could conceive children whenever we chose to do so, but also the other myriad of assumptions that we make about hetero couples and cis individuals. What really came through our interview, however, was much more focused on my understanding of our Unitarian Universalist principles and what it means to me to be Unitarian Universalist, and how that has shown up in my relationship with Adam and our relationship building. The beginning of our relationship, now more than 5 years ago, much like the beginning of any relationship, focused on learning about the other person and trying to understand who each of us were as human beings, how we wanted to be perceived as individuals, and how we wanted to be witnessed within the world. Being able to offer to another person the perception that they long for, the witness of self that they have attempted to put forward, can be one of the most sacred acts that we can offer each other. To be able to witness a person as they wish to be seen, to be able to offer to someone the chance at figuring out who they are and how they want to be within the world, allows us to create a space where everyone and every part of that person is welcome. Much like Deb mentioned in the welcoming this morning, part of being in a spiritual community is being seen. And I was really intrigued by Deb's acronym of RBDSM: relationship status, boundary, desire, sexual health, and meaning. Although Adam and I did not know this acronym, this was definitely part of the conversations that we had at the beginning of the exploration of our relationship. And I might even suggest that we add another step or an additional consideration to this acronym, that of being perceived. How would you like to be perceived as an individual within this relationship? Reverend Dr. Patrick Chang speaks to the creation of this space within his book, Rainbow Theology. His research and theological reflections lift up the intersectionality of race and sexuality, and how that intersectionality can create a new way through which Christians can understand spirituality. Reverend Dr. Patrick Chang is a Lutheran. But that there is a broader way in which individuals experience the world, and we can use that experience to critique how spirituality has been perceived and leveraged in the past. In the summary of his book, Chang states, simply put, rainbow theology is a theology that is written by and for LGBTIQ people of color. It is a theology that fully embraces the beautiful hues of race and ethnicity in an LGBTIQ community that is predominantly white. It is also a theology that fully embraces the variety of sexuality and gender identities in communities of color that are predominantly straight and cisgendered. And rainbow theology is a broader methodology and critique that can be applied to all forms of theological reflection. And while I agree that there is something particular about the intersectionality of sexuality and race, I also want to lift up that there are unique perspectives and powerful experiences at every intersection of our identities. As we weave together in the understandings of class, disability, and age into our intersections of sexuality and gender identities and race, we will move closer and closer to perceiving the technicolor world of our dreams. Not only is there a brilliance of technicolor available to us, as we continue to expand our understanding of welcome and of inclusion, much the same way that the white gay men community of the 1980s and 1990s needed to broaden its understanding of welcome and inclusion. But I believe that Unitarian Universalism and Unitarian Universalists have a really unique opportunity to share our own theology expressed in our principles. When combined and expressed together, the inherent worth and dignity of every human being, alongside the free and responsible search for truth and meaning, create this incredible opportunity for the witnessing of humanity, for the perceiving of individuals as they are and as they choose to be experienced. Recognizing the worth of individuals' technicolor personality and characteristics, their technicolor personhood, and the divinity that that personhood deserves, no matter how near or far along the rainbow that individual is from our own point of view, offers an incredibly powerful opportunity of inclusion. And if we layer on top of our first principle, the fourth principle, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, recognizing that people have spent time discovering who they are and how they choose to be perceived, we can widen that circle of belonging even more. I believe that at the crux of these two principles might be part of the work that is required as we move toward achieving our eighth principle, the inherent worth and dignity of every human being and the free and responsible search for truth and meaning. We combine these two principles together and we create the opportunity to witness someone as the search for their truth and offer them worth and dignity that they crave when searching for their identity. Not only is there beauty in diversity as we continue on that search, but there is beauty to be witnessed on the never-ending road to discovering our own truth. I hope that as you go out today in a city that celebrates Pride, you remember that we have an amazing capacity to witness one another. Thank you, and happy Pride, everyone.
Thank you so much, Rev Danielle. I will definitely be adding P to that acronym so that we can recognize the technicolor of personhood, of everyone's personhood. Thank you for that. Now it's time for our offertory. Sharing of ourselves is part of every faith. Volunteer efforts are essential, and we thank you. But let's not forget that salaries need to be paid, as does the rent and other bills, and programs are created through your contributions. Members of Neighbourhood choose a variety of ways to give, either through offerings in the basket, predated checks, e-transfers, and automatic withdrawals. And please remember, you can always have that option to change or add to your contribution at any time. So for the folks online, instead of using the basket, please use the link displayed on the screen, which will lead you to our donation page on our website. And in all ways, we thank you and we ask you to be generous. So I'd ask the greeters to please pass the baskets now while we listen to the Spirit Choir. Actually, where are the greeters? Thanks, Dina. Yeah. Thanks, Helen.
So, for the offertory music, we also wanted to recognize some advances made, and we're going to sing a Bosnian sevda. This is a traditional song that has been adopted by the gay rights movement in Bosnia-Herzegovina. They held their first Pride Parade ever in 2019 to much counter-protest, but they went on anyways. And this song was sung at the end of the parade. It's a folk song that talks about how just like the snow can fall and land on the petals, our love goes where it wants to go, to love who we want to love, and if you shouldn't try to get in the way of people loving each other. So this is called Snijeg Pade na Bahar. Spirit Choir, can we rise please to sing?
Yes. Thank you, Spirit Choir. Thank you. If you have found love and acceptance here, if you have found home here, if you have known kindred spirits here, let this offering be a token of gratitude for our common life as we build the common good. And now for our closing song, Suzanne and Spirit Choir.
Thanks. Our closing song is a song by Labi Sifra from the 80s. He was in retirement as a musician in the 80s, but was watching, actually I can't say everyone, was watching a documentary on apartheid and seeing white police shooting black children, and really felt the need to come out of retirement to write this song. So he wrote the song. There's really a cross between his watching that documentary and also the experiences of him being an out gay black man and the oppression that he received for his own identity. So we're going to sing this, and I would like to teach you the chorus so that you're able to join us on the chorus. So let's have a little, maybe some of you know it already. We're going to have a little call and response for the congregation. So the chorus sounds like this. Something inside so strong. Let's do that. Something inside so strong. I know that I can make it, though you're doing me wrong, so wrong. I know that I can make it, though you're doing me wrong, so wrong. You thought that my pride was gone, oh no. You thought that my pride was gone, oh no. Something inside so strong, oh. Something inside so strong, oh. Something inside so strong. Something inside so strong. Let's just try the chorus all the way through, because I would really like the congregation to sing with us on this one. So, just the melody. Here we go. Something inside so strong. I know that I can make it, though you're doing me wrong, so wrong. You thought that my pride was gone, oh no. Something inside so strong, oh, something inside so strong. Could we all rise in spirit and energy to sing this one, please?
The
Wow. Happy Pride indeed. And now I'd like to invite Dina Wake back up to please come back and extinguish our chalice as we sing together. Today I leave you with this blessing written by Cricket Hall. May the drag stage rise to meet you. May the world rise to accept and embrace you. May the rainbow of love enfold you. May your fluidity never be hindered. May your pronouns always be supported and your dead name forgotten. May those you invite into your life remain loyal. May your chosen family lift you up and catch you when you need it. Sorry. May you be able to catch others when they need it. May you remember sensitivity is not weakness, but instead great strength welling up inside you. And until we meet again, may you remember that you are loved and you are divine. For those of you who don't wish to join a breakout room, thank you for joining us. Everyone who remains here on Zoom will be asked to join a breakout room. And just a reminder, today's question to consider discussing in the breakout room or during coffee time. Briefly tell us about a time when your worldview changed after meeting someone who you had held a bias about. And if you're new to Neighbourhood and would like to learn more about us, and you're on Zoom, just hit later when you're requested to join a breakout room. That will bring you to the sanctuary where Suzanne will be here to chat with you and respond to any questions you may have. We end our service by going into gallery view and unmuting ourselves or turning to those around us. Now together, with sincerity in our eyes and acceptance and honor in our hearts on this Pride Day, let us say namaste to all the fabulous people around us. And this means I salute the spirit within you. Go in peace, love, and pride.
Namaste. Happy Pride, everyone.